In February 1944, official Navy records all pointed to the wrong place, thanks to a single mistranslated number in a top-secret file. It took a Japanese researcher and modern technology to pierce the shroud and finally reveal her fate. How could one digit hide a submarine and 80 souls for generations? And what secrets did the Grayback take to the depths before she was found at last? Grayback was not built for ceremony. She was 307 feet of riveted steel, 10 torpedo tubes set into her bow and stern, a single deck gun braced above the conning tower. When she slipped into the Atlantic from Groton, Connecticut in 1941, the Navy had no illusions. This was a predator designed for the Pacific's vast, uncertain war. Her record would soon justify every line of her blueprint. Over 10 patrols, Grayback prowled the South China and East China Seas, the Solomons, the Bismarck Archipelago. Waters where the enemy's lifelines ran thick with men and material. 14 ships went down beneath her torpedoes, over 63,000 tons erased from Japanese shipping lists. She ranked 20th among all American submarines for tonnage destroyed, 24th by number of ships. The numbers told a story of relentless pursuit and precision. Grayback was more than a hunter, she was a survivor. Her crew pushed her to the edge, surfacing to attack convoys at night, risking everything in close-quarters duels. In one rare engagement, she stalked and sank the Japanese submarine I-18, a feat that set her apart in the silent war beneath the waves. Recognition followed. 8 battle stars, 2 Navy unit commendations, citations signed and sealed by the highest offices in Washington. Each patrol report read like a ledger of risk. Torpedoes expended, ships claimed, depth charges endured. The men aboard knew the odds, and so did their adversaries. Japanese commanders gave her a name in their own logs, the Ghost of the South China Sea. Inside her hull, 65 men lived by routine and calculation, but the submarine herself set the tempo. Her power lay not just in steel and armament, but in the fear she inspired, and the hope she carried for the men who called her home. Before the final patrol, before the silence, Grayback's legacy was already written in the language of victory and loss. December 1942, the South Pacific. Deep below the surface, the air inside Grayback thickened with worry. Pharmacist's mate Harry Roby, barely older than the men he served beside, faced a crisis no training manual could cover. One crewman doubled over in agony, appendicitis, certain and deadly if left untreated. There was no surgeon, no hospital, only a steel tube surrounded by enemy waters. Roby gathered his tools, a kitchen knife, makeshift ether, sewing thread. He worked by flashlight, guided by a medical handbook, as the boat rocked and the engines hummed. 2 hours later, the appendix lay in a cup. The patient survived, and the crew's faith in one another deepened. A month later, Grayback surfaced off the coast of New Britain. Overhead, the sky was split by the drone of Japanese patrols. On the beach, 6 downed American airmen waited, stranded, hunted, out of hope. Commander John A. Moore ordered a rubber boat launched into the surf. 2 sailors paddled through gunfire, risking their lives for men they had never met. They made it back, wounded but alive. The rescued airmen huddled at their feet. That night, Grayback slipped away, carrying 9 more souls than she had the day before. Moore's command style was forged in these moments. He walked the length of the boat each night, sleeves rolled, sharing coffee and news from home. He believed in risk, but only the kind he would shoulder himself. Crew accounts remember him as steady under fire, quick to praise, slow to judge. 3 times, the Navy awarded him the Cross for Valor. Yet the highest honor, his men would say, was the trust he inspired. On Grayback, courage was not a slogan, it was a habit, repeated in silence, in shadow, in every decision that meant life or death. Inside the hull, the boundaries between officer and enlisted blurred. Survival depended on ingenuity, humor, and an unspoken pact, no one left behind. The boat's legacy was measured not just in ships sunk, but in lives saved, risks shared, and the quiet heroism that filled the long hours between alarms. February 25, 1944. Grayback's radio crackled to life with her final report. 4 enemy ships destroyed, only 2 torpedoes left in her racks. The message was clipped, matter of fact, a ledger of destruction and dwindling options. Orders were clear: turn for home. But in the East China Sea, safety was measured in hours, not miles. 2 days later, the morning sky south of Okinawa was split by the engine drone of a Nakajima B-5N bomber, carrier-launched and hunting. Grayback surfaced, exposed in the daylight. The bomber's crew sighted her silhouette, dropped altitude, and released a single 500-pound bomb. It struck aft of the conning tower, a flash, a concussion that split steel and hope in the same instant. Japanese logs recorded a plume of oil, debris scattered across the waves, and air bubbles rising in silence. Escorts closed in, depth charges tumbling into the sea, but there was nothing left to pursue. 65 men vanished beneath the surface, their final moments lost to the churn of water and flame. For the Grayback, the war ended not in surrender, but in a sudden violent erasure, her fate sealed, her position miswritten into history. In the aftermath of war, the paper trail grew cold. The Grayback's final position, once recorded in the heat of battle, was quietly misfiled in the peace that followed. The original Japanese aviation report, logged by the Okinawa Naval Air Group, placed the attack at 128 degrees 45 minutes east. But as the document passed through hands, first microfilmed, then translated by PACMER's linguists in Washington, a single digit slipped. In the English version, the longitude became 138 degrees 45 minutes east, shifting the site by 100 nautical miles. The error embedded itself in the official record. The Joint Army-Navy Assessment Committee, relying on the PACMER's translation, entered the wrong coordinate into the master list of submarine losses. The 1946 U.S. Submarine Losses publication fixed the mistake in print, and every subsequent database, index card, and search effort followed its lead. For decades, expeditions combed the wrong patch of sea, guided by a number that had never belonged to the Grayback at all. Translation mistakes of this kind were rare. The pressure of sifting thousands of handwritten Japanese logs, the challenge of deciphering faded numerals, and the haste of post-war compilation created narrow margins for error. In this case, a single misread kanji or a slip of the typewriter sent the Grayback's story drifting into obscurity. The mechanism was simple: a digit lost in translation, a war grave hidden by paperwork. June 5, 2019. The Lost 52 Project survey vessel drifted south of Okinawa, its monitors flickering with the grain of sonar returns. Tim Taylor's team had spent weeks combing empty water, guided now by coordinates recalculated by Yutaka Iwasaki, a Japanese systems engineer whose careful reading of wartime logs had rewritten the search grid. The echoes sharpened. A hull, unmistakable in profile, appeared at 1,400 feet. In that moment, disbelief gave way to WWII. Cameras descended, revealing battle scars in the bridge plaque. Grayback, silent since 1944, found at last. Confirmation came quickly. The Navy reviewed the images, matched serial numbers and features, and by November notified the families, sons, daughters, grandchildren who had waited a lifetime for a word. For many, the news brought a quiet relief, a closing of the circle left open for 75 years. The site, now recognized as a U.S. war grave, is protected by law and custom. No salvage, no disturbance, only remembrance, and the enduring presence of those who never returned. Iwasaki's diligence, Taylor's technology, and the Navy's solemn duty converged to restore a chapter nearly lost to error and time. USS Grayback was launched on January 31, 1941, and earned 8 battle stars before her final patrol. For 75 years, a single digit, an error in translating Japanese wartime records, shifted her presumed resting place by hundreds of miles. It was not until 2019, after Yutaka Iwasaki, re-examined those original documents, that the true coordinates led search teams to the Grayback's wreck at 1,427 feet below the surface. The U.S. Navy officially notified families and recognized the site as a war grave. While the full details of her last moments remain locked in classified files and ocean depths, the recovery corrected the historical record and brought long-awaited closure to relatives of the 80 lost sailors. The story of the Grayback demonstrates how vigilance in archival research, down to a single number, can rewrite history. Today, her discovery stands as both a tribute to her crew's sacrifice and a reminder of the enduring power of accurate records. USS Grayback was one of America's deadliest submarines, vanishing into legend after sinking 14 enemy ships and rescuing downed airmen deep behind enemy lines. The war record was unmatched. Her commander awarded 3 Navy Crosses, yet for 75 years, every search for Grayback ended in failure.